A crucial time for Madison Walker to kind of step up. She hit the ball really well. Gabby Garcia, who we're going to see offensively here, but made a phenomenal play at shortstop and made it look easy and like it's an everyday play. But Madison Walker hit that ball hard, and she made a great play over at shortstop.
Garcia, the 3-run homer out to right back in the first inning. That's all the scoring. McCann has really settled in fantastically well for Missouri at this point. Since Garcia last came up, 8 Sooners in a row have been retired.
McCann definitely did not have her best stuff in that first inning. She came out, she gave up some walks and then she left the ball up to Garcia, and Garcia is going to make you pay for that. So McCann since then has really settled in. She's been getting ahead of the hitters, really throwing her changeup and her off-speed pitches a little bit better, more in the zone to kind of tempt those OU hitters.
Two-one. Rip foul up.
Off-speed pitches a little bit better, more in the zone to kind of tempt those OU hitters.
Two-one. Rip foul up first. Gabby Garcia is so relaxed at the plate. She's singing along to the faux organ playing in the stadium. I'd be relaxed too by a 14-game hitting streak with 9 home runs over that span. Ripped towards second, but snared by Smith. Even Garcia's outs are rockets, but it's 9 in a row. If you did that in a video game, you would go to the settings menu and you would turn up the difficulty.
Yes.
Garcia's calling the SEC office. Like, you guys got anybody tougher?
Those are video game numbers. That's happening right now to an actual freshman in the SEC.
Here's Ella Parker. 1 ball, 1 strike. Parker granted his second or first time. Mentioned she has been in a bit of a slump. Now 2 for 17 over her last 9 counting tonight without an extra base hit. And she couldn't hold up strike 2. But it's important to note that she's walked 11 times over that stretch, so her OBP is still around 500, even during her quote-unquote slump. A lot of kids would love that slump.
Well, that shows that she's still seeing the ball well, right? She's not swinging at balls out of the zone. She's not trying to stretch her zone. She's still seeing the ball well. It's just sometimes that happens. That's softball, right? So it's going to happen sometimes where you're going to hit the ball right at somebody like we saw with Garcia, or you're going to just not have it. Softball's a game of inches, and the difference between a home run and a pop fly is not that much.
2 balls and 2 strikes now on Parker. Hard hit to short, handled by Updegrove, and Parker retired. Sort of case in point. That's a good swing and well-hit ball, but just right at Updegrove, and she handled it well.
Good hard-hit ball. Updegrove makes a good play. You see her over there getting more comfortable at shortstop, getting rid of that ball quickly over to Madison Walker at first.
Feels like Kara Daly's probably not going back to shortstop.
It's looking pretty good for Madison Updegrove out there. She looks really smooth. She's kind of got her feet under her now. She played a little bit of shortstop early in the year, and you could tell she wasn't quite as comfortable yet and had made that shift to second base. But you see her out there now after she's gotten a lot more comfortable, and she's looking very smooth.
And sometimes it just takes, something out of the coach's control to prompt switching things up in a way that ends up working. 1 ball, no strikes on Sydney Sanders. Missouri knows that from relatively recent history at shortstop. So what made me think of it is when Braxton Burnside had that early season injury. That would have been 2021 probably. The last year she was at Mizzou in the end before she transferred to Arkansas. And it brought basically 0-star recruit from nowhere, Iowa, Brooke Wilmus, off the bench to become one of the better players in the history of Missouri softball.
Sometimes you just need that chance, right? You just need that opportunity to get out there and prove yourself.
I think that was farther back even than 21, now that I think about it.
I think you're right. I think it was definitely before the 2020 season.
Right, it must have been 19.
Yeah.
Or even 18 was that the interim, the Gina Fogan? I'm gonna have to look it up now. This is what I get for bringing something up
right, that you didn't have.
that I didn't have already. 3 balls, 1 strike. Either way, it did happen that way. Burnside really did get hurt, and Brooke Williams really did come in. That was a real story.
We just don't know what year
I just don't know what year it was. Sanders struck out her first time, way ahead at 3-1. McCann has only walked 1 batter. It was the very first of the game. And there's number 2. Sapped a string of 10 Sooners in a row retired. Still, they have only 2 hits in the game. One was the jam shot bloop down the left side by McEnroe Marinas in the first, and the second one was the Gabby Garcia homer out to right. I always thought as a pitcher, one of the most painful things would be to look out at the scoreboard and see more runs than hits. Because you know it's just like one
right,
mistake in there or a bunch of walks or some combination.
Yes, one big mistake. And you know, now these stats are kind of thrown at you all the time. There's no hiding from it. So every single time, you know, they have runners up, you know exactly what your average is, how many hits you have, all that stuff. Sometimes that can be a little mentally tough as a player to just kind of forget all of that.
There wasn't a fancy LED board out at University Field back in the 2000s.
There was not.
Although as new and as nice as this stadium is, the OU players probably step in here and like, oh, well, playing Double-A this weekend, I guess, compared to Love's Field.
They just have that brand new field. You know, before then, and deservedly so, they absolutely deserve that brand new field. It's very pretty. It's got all the amenities, right?
Looks
you got
spectacular.
Everything you could want. But before that, their field was not as impressive as this one, or I would put it along the lines of University Field.
Shows you the incredible growth of the sport, especially at the highest level, and in particular, obviously, for Oklahoma, but even for the other teams in the power conferences, how big the jumps have been. You know, it's not just a new version of the same stadium you had before. It's a totally different world, both for Oklahoma and for Mizzou.
Well, I think that's exciting for the sport. It's exciting for the girls, right? They grew up kind of watching all of this and really admiring all these players, and now they are those players.
Good bunt. Crenshaw out from behind the plate. Rockets it down to first, but not in time to beat Agbayani. So 2 on for Oklahoma with 2 out. And it brings up Isabella Emmerling. Ten straight retired for McCann, but 2 straight reach now for OU. And the North Carolina transfer, Emmerling, at the plate. .323 with 14 homers last year as a Tar Heel. Big cut. And Patty Gasso told us that's what you'd see with Emmerling at the plate. She's going to take big swings, kind of thing you notice all around the ballpark. And that the price of that is to take some strikeouts, but in exchange, you get traded back with timely 3-run bombs. Those were her exact words.
Those were her exact words. She was trying to manifest this exact situation.
It's funny looking at her down in third base coaching box, because even though she knows that and she says that, she just watched that 0-1 swing from Emmerling and leaned back a little bit coaching third.
Even when you know it's coming, it's hard not to have a reaction to that.
Strike 3 called. Emmerling goes down on 3 pitches, and McCann wiggles out of a 2-out Oklahoma rally. Third straight 0 on the board for the Sooners, but there's nothing but zeros on the board for the Tigers. On the home half of the scoreboard so far tonight.
Landry's pitched beautifully in the circle, right? She's really using her changeup to her advantage. She's moving the ball around the zone really well, getting ahead of the hitters, and really making Mizzou uncomfortable in the box.
Kara Daly leads off the home 4th. Daly had a strikeout looking her first time. That was the second in the first inning. And now 4 in the game for Landry. See the work that Daly did over her last 6. 3 homers and 13 batted in, better than 2 per game. Right on that one, 1-1. When you were saying that Kara Daly might and Sam Landry might, for that matter, try not to go to that changeup as much until she gets out in front, because Missouri was struggling to catch up to her a little bit, and maybe she sped up the bat, in particular of Crenshaw, who was able to wait on it and go down the left field line.
Well, you could see that Crenshaw was definitely waiting on that off-speed pitch. That's why she was able to sit back. She wasn't fooled on it at all. Landry really was throwing that a lot in those first 3 innings. So if Mizzou could start to look for that off-speed pitch earlier in the count so they don't have to be worried about how quick that drop ball or rise ball is coming, they could see a lot more success against her.
Landry's 2-2 pitch. At the very least, Missouri is making her work a lot harder these last couple of innings. She was, around 11 pitches per inning on that pace through the first 2 2/3.
And her pitch count is still pretty low, so Mizzou, even not just for this game, but for the entire series, really needs to be more patient in the box, make sure that she's throwing the ball in the zone and get her pitch count up a little bit higher.
Agbayani made that look easy. The ground ball to Garcia to finish the third, and then to that one to finish the fourth, or to start the fourth, I should say, to Agbayani. Just so smooth.
We talk a lot about OU's offense, but I think in this game in particular, when we talked to Coach Gasso, she said that she really wants to make sure that her defense is sharp. So one play, even a relay from the outfield, making sure that they were crisp and smooth on defense, and I think that they've come out tonight and really done such a great job defensively.
Strike one to Taylor Ebbs, first-year Tiger transfer from Kentucky. She said something that's sort of true, or sort of simple, but obviously true, which is you can only defend balls in play. Can't defend walks, can't defend home runs. And she feels really good about their defense. Wants the pitchers to just be rolling ground balls, let them play. Don't need to be perfect, just don't put folks on base for free. And Landry has done that. No walks, no hit batsmen. Crenshaw officially got a single, by the way, moved up to second on the throw on that in the official scoring. So it's one single to Crenshaw and a reach on error for Claire Cahalan. Wouldn't be surprised to see that Crenshaw hit change to a double at some point, but it is a single in the official book for the moment. Ebbs had a ground out to the first baseman Sanders, leading off the second inning, her first time up. One away now in the fourth. Landry's 2-2 offering.
This is where Landry becomes so dangerous when she has 2 strikes on a hitter. She has such this, arsenal of pitches. She has a great rise ball, this great changeup. She has a drop ball, curveball she can throw in on a lefty's hands. You just have to be prepared for all of it and just stop thinking as a hitter and just see ball, hit ball.
Down and away, full count. The payoff. Do it again.
Great at bat by Ebbs here. Seen a lot of pitches, fouled off a couple really tough pitches from Landry, trying to just make sure she can stay alive and get her pitch. Taylor Ebbs doing everything she can right now to keep that pitch count for Landry going up. See how many pitches she can foul off.
A lot more coaches around the entire softball world much more cognizant of pitch count, inning workload than they would have been 10, 15 years ago. Just outside, ball 4. And Landry walks just her 7th batter of the entire season.
Great at-bat by Ebbs there. Saw 9 pitches, fouled off some really tough ones, able to get the walk.
Missouri goes to Addie Kohler as the pinch runner. Sophomore from Texarkana, Texas.
When you mentioned the pitch count, that's another way this game has grown. You know, back in the day when I played, it was you had one ace and you would have you only played a 2-game conference series on the weekend, so your ace could throw both games if needed, and you didn't have this pitching staff that you're starting to see. You know, you're kind of embracing that baseball mindset. Mizzou has a pitching staff, and they really kind of try to throw which pitcher is going to, later in the game, who's going to be more effective against what hitter. You see Oklahoma doing the same thing, really trying to have more of a pitching staff as opposed to just one ace.
Stefania Abascado clipped by the pitch. So back-to-back free bases.
Upper 60s, low 70s.
The 7th walk of the season issued by Landry just a moment prior to Ebbs. And Abascado becomes the 4th batter she's hit this year. Patty Gasso out, maybe just to see if there's any chance that Abascado leaned into that pitch. Scott Mayer says no. We have seen that called a lot more around the country.
Which I'm a big fan of. I think if you're wearing an elbow guard and you're leaning out over the plate on a ball that could be a strike, even if it's a ball but it wouldn't have hit you, I'm a fan of calling that runner back and making him be in the box and hit that ball.
Over the chalk or not at that point, because you're entitled to stand there in the box.
Yep.
Nobody's saying she can't stand where she stands, and then she's entitled to have her elbows move a little bit while she, in that case, check swing.
That's your natural swing, right? So you're right, it's a natural movement. If she's not leaning that front elbow out to try and get it, I think it hit her back arm, so it wasn't even her front arm that hit.
If she's able to manipulate that, such as to put her back elbow in the perfect spot in the middle of the check swing, I think that's just, at some point you tip your cap.
Absolutely.
Mound visit for Oklahoma. Actually, back-to-back pitches with mound visits, though. There was no coach present for the first one. That was when Patty Gasso came out to talk to Scott Mayer about the pitch that clipped Abascado. So it's the 2nd inning in a row. Missouri has had 2 runners on after they didn't have a base runner. Went 8 up and 8 down to start the game. A Sanders error and a Crenshaw single resulted in runners at 2nd and 3rd in the 3rd inning with 2 out. Updegrove down the right field line, twisting toward the foul pole. It is wrong side of the pole, the foul ball. Madison Updegrove, who in her first week as a collegiate player back in her hometown, has hit a pair of home runs, nearly had a 3rd one that might have popped the top off this place. Landry's 1-1 delivery.
Second time through the lineup, you've seen these Missouri hitters be a lot more patient at the plate. They look a lot more comfortable in the box against Sam Landry.
Updegrove to left. Back goes Pickering with room in front of the track for the 2nd out. Sophie Smith is due up, but looks like Larissa Anderson is going to go to a pinch hitter.
Coach Anderson trying to get some sort of spark coming off the bench, having runners, out there. Doesn't want to leave any runners on bases, and you can't do that against Oklahoma if you want to win.
Hayden Sokolowski, transfer from Oklahoma State, so well familiar with the Sooners, settles into the righty batter's box.
Has her own rival with OU.
Yeah, rivals in the old league, rivals in the new league. And frankly, to the extent that Missouri and Oklahoma is a rivalry, I think it's looked a little more as a rivalry by Mizzou fans than it is by Oklahoma fans. Softball is probably the sport where it feels the truest because, frankly, in football it's been so lopsided over the years. To third base, handled by McEnroe Marinas, and Missouri for the second straight inning leaves a pair of runners on base. Sam Landry not looking untouchable, but more than good enough. 3-0 Sooners. It's the bottom of the Oklahoma lineup, and Tia Malloy is pinch hitting for Sydney Barker in the 9 spot. Abigail Dayton and Nellie McEnroe Marinas are scheduled to follow for the Sooners in the visitors' 5th. Malloy, another true freshman, homered in her first collegiate start back on opening weekend against Cal Baptist. Followed it up with another long ball the next day against Loyola Marymount, but that has gone cold this month, although, to be fair, she hasn't gotten a tremendous number of opportunities. McCann's 1-1 is floated toward second base and taken by Smith. All the way is the first out.
It's a big time out for McCann, right? You want to make sure you come out and you get that number 9 hitter. OU offensive is impressive 1 through 9, but the 1 through 5 hitters are deadly. So you want to make sure that you can get that number 9 hitter, get that first out, and not put any runners on base.
Top of the order in Abigail Dayton now. Had a walk and scored in the first inning, grounded out to shorter last time in the 3rd. She also homered in her Oklahoma debut, opener against Cal State Northridge. Excellent speed, 11 steals in 13 tries, although she was caught against Arkansas last weekend. It's the second time all year. Had a good series nonetheless, 3 for 7 with a double, a walk. Was hit a couple of times. Mentioned she was an All-American last year at Utah, hit .431. She was almost unbelievably consistent from February 24th all the way to the end of the season. Her average never dipped below .430.
That's incredible. We talked about video game numbers. Those are video game numbers.
Those are like AI numbers or something. like you're sending a robot out there and like you programmed it, don't hit 700.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Right.
Let's do 440.
Just stay around the
435, 430. That'll be fine. Dayton toward first and past Walker into right. Oklahoma has its 4th hit. Dayton is aboard for the 2nd time in 3 trips.
I think that's the first time you've really seen Walker look not as comfortable at first base, was on that hit, not knowing, do I have one more step before I got to get back? She could have had, I think she had another step and a half before she would have to retreat back to first base, especially with Sophie Smith playing up the middle as much as she is.
Is first base the most underrated position in terms of difficulty, you think?
Absolutely, because I think, yes, you have to have really great footwork around the bag at all times, but you have to know when you have to let that ball go and rely on your second baseman. Especially in softball, a little different than baseball. You got to worry about that bunt situation. Like most of the times that first baseman is crashing. She's not going to sit back and take that throw. So just really having to be a really athletic position in which doesn't get a lot of credit.
McEnroe Marinas is 1 for 2. Rips it toward third, but foul. We talked about it in the context of Madison Updegrove. It's short, but if she's able to stay there and keep Kara Daly at third, what an asset as well for Missouri with what a great third baseman Daly has become. And you can see it on that dive. Not only is she covering all of fair territory, she's probably covering 6 to 12 inches of foul territory too.
Yeah, and I think she looked really good as a shortstop early in the year, but she really kind of made a name for herself as a third baseman. She's got really good glove work, really good footwork over there, and covers a lot of ground. She's tall, and she can really make sure she covers that 5-6 hole really well in between for that ball that's hit between the shortstop and third baseman.
Right, you normally don't talk about height as an advantage for an infielder because usually height, has a at least vaguely linear relationship with.
Red shirt freshman, captain, really comes through here. This is a big time hit by her. Really great at bat. She hasn't, she got that base hit in the first inning.
Boost from it. Here's Cassidy Pickering, takes a strike.
It didn't stay in the air very long. It got out in a hurry.
And if the wind we have to right were blowing out to left, it might have taken that one over the berm. Certainly would have threatened. Over the screen, out of play. I've noticed about this Mizzou softball crowd, very supportive of the team, tough on each other.
Very tough.
Every
crowd.
time a foul ball drops in the seats, there's some guy, and I assume it's not the same guy, but it might be. You got to catch that in the background. Rip toward first and through into right. 3 straight hits for Oklahoma, a couple through that 3-4 hole on the right side. Cassidy Pickering now 1 for 3, continues what has been a good stretch for her. 5 out of 11 over her last 5 games.
See OU really kind of trying to sit back on McCann's off-speed pitches here. You've seen a lot of balls. They're turning on a lot of the balls, and you're seeing that with these lefty hitters kind of hitting these hard line drives, hard ground balls through the field.
Gabby Garcia is the scheduled hitter. And Oklahoma's going to Cheney Helton as a pinch runner over at first, freshman who has been used primarily as a pinch runner this year. First team All-State softball player in Oklahoma last year, but her high school track experience has been more handy. She was a 3-time Oklahoma finalist in the 200-meter dash. So safe to say, excellent speed on the base paths for the Sooners. Now a 5-0 in the 5th. And Garcia, who as it stands has the game-winning hit, just 4 batters into the night, is at the plate. 3-run shot out to right in the first inning, and a smoked line out to second in the 4th inning. In fact, I wonder if her line out was hit even harder with a higher exit velocity than the home run. It wouldn't shock me.
I do think she hit that ball harder than her home run. She got a little underneath the home run, and she's so strong, has such a good swing, she's able to get it out. But that line drive at Sophie Smith in her last at-bat was absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, they say, hey, rookie, welcome to the NFL. That was hey, freshman, welcome to the SEC for Sophie Smith, although it was another freshman welcoming her.
Right.
Toward the middle, Smith can't backhand it, sneaks under her into center. Would have been a tricky play anyway, probably a glove flip to try to get the pinch runner Helton at second. 2 on, 1 out, and that's 4 consecutive hits for Oklahoma.
Helton is very fast and caused a little bit of chaos there with Sophie Smith at second base, knowing she had to get that ball out of her glove really fast. Wasn't able to make the play.
And that's going to be all for Marissa McCann. J.C. Cruzy is coming out of the Missouri bullpen. She will face Ella Parker on the other side of the break. 2 on, 2 out, or rather 1 out and 2 already in for Oklahoma, up 5-0 in the 5th. Going to be an uphill battle for Marissa McCann this evening. And she had stretches that were really, really good. In fact, she retired 10 Sooners in a row at one time, but that has unraveled for her. Now 6 of the last 8 Sooners have reached base, including 4 straight hits. And that brings J.C. Cruzy in for just the 3rd time this season. She pitched a scoreless inning with a hit and a walk against Florida State all the way back in mid-February. And a couple of weeks ago in the first SEC series, she pitched against Kentucky in Lexington. No runs on a couple of hits over an inning and a third. And she gets ahead with a strike to Ella Parker.
She's a lot different look than McCann is, right? So Cruzy doesn't throw as hard as McCann does. She really tends to work more down. And well, the home run ball has been deadly for these Mizzou pitchers. You get runners on base.
I think it was in the Princeton game that Mizzou ended up winning when Claire Cahalan was in center, and she was in position to rob a home run, but she's only 5'1". Kaylee Langer is 5'9". And so has a much easier time getting up over the fence and wouldn't have even really had to jump for that one, but sort of blocked herself by just knocking her elbow or her forearm into the fence.
Yeah, almost being too close to the fence there. You got to give yourself a little bit of room to be able to maneuver your arms and get up to get that ball.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Sanders. So 2 of those 3 runs are charged to McCann. In the end, she gets 7 earned runs over 4 1/3 innings, which is really not remotely representative of the fight she put up. And I think Oklahoma hitters and Patty Gasso would probably say the same thing.
There were times out there that McCann looked brilliant. I mean, she really, some of her off-speed pitches and some of her rise balls out of the zone to get some swings and misses, she looked really good out there at times. And just, it's when you have those walks, those, little base hits, or you have an error and you get these runners on in scoring position, and 1 deep ball is going to make a really big difference.
It's part of what makes any great team great, and it's what makes Oklahoma whatever you want to call better than great. Because not only do they punish mistakes, as all great teams have to, there's strike 3 called on Sanders, and 1 away, or 2 away, I should say. But on top of that, they are so deep. Their lineup is so good top to bottom that pretty much anybody 1 through 9 can be the one who gets the big blow and really hurts you.
Yeah, I mean, that's everyone in the SEC, right? They all have the ability to put the ball out of the park, but OU just takes it to a different level, so you never get a break. You can't take any pitch off if you're a pitcher for Mizzou in this series, and that can be tough, right? So even if you just miss by a little bit, OU can make you pay 1 through 9 with their hitters.
Elana Agbayani ahead of the count, 1 ball and no strikes. Ground out to second and a single for Agbayani. Takes off speed for a strike. Hawaii native who spent her first 2 seasons of college softball at BYU. So she's actually playing in her 3rd different conference in 3 years, because BYU transitioned from the West Coast Conference to the Big 12 between her freshman and sophomore years. It's a bunt that's foul, 2-2. And now she comes to Oklahoma, which of course is transitioning as well. So 3 different conferences and twice playing for teams in their first year in their new conferences. First team All WCC, first team All Big 12. If she could get a first team All SEC at some point, that's a real hat trick.
That's impressive.
Got a couple of years to do it. Pitch is down, count is full. She was 1 out of 9 with 3 walks and a run batted in the sweep of Arkansas in Fayetteville last weekend. Off to a 1-for-2 start. 2 o'clock Central will be underway tomorrow in Game 2. And noon on Sunday to close out the series. Be interesting to see how Oklahoma approaches the remaining 2 games from a pitching standpoint. Just missed ball 4. Certainly we wouldn't expect to see Sam Landry start tomorrow.
I think you'll see a pitch by committee tomorrow, and then I would not be surprised, though, to see Sam Landry brought back out for the Sunday game.
Patty Gasso maybe just made a spur-of-the-moment decision to pinch hit for Emmerling, because she was on her way to the plate. A lot of times you see the pinch hitter already out of the on-deck circle, but Emmerling was walking up and JT Gasso, Patty's son, is going to have to come all the way out and say, exactly who did you want here? It's going to be Maya Bland. Bland has spent most of her career as OU's top pinch runner. They have a lot of depth in that regard this year, though, because Bland and Helton are both really good options. A couple of other speedy kids on the bench.
Well, Coach Gasso knows that depth is going to be a really big part of this team going, deep into the SEC season and into the postseason. You really need a lot of depth to be able to come off your bench, provide some sparks if you need it. So giving Bland an opportunity here when the pressure's not as high as it would be necessarily in a, tie ball game or in a postseason game.
Bland is 2 for 16 at the plate this year, though she's walked 7 times. Had a home run against Marshall on the 1st of this month in Norman. You make a good point. It's one of the downsides. I guess I shouldn't say that, but maybe it's the dark lining on an otherwise silver cloud of having such a well-established lineup as OU does, which is maybe a little bit of a surprise considering the roster turnover, but the lineup solidified really early. And Patty Gasso has started largely the same group for the significant majority of games. And as a result, there are kids on the bench who just don't get that many opportunities, especially at the plate. They maybe participate as defensive subs or as pinch runners.
And really good hitters, right? So they're not bad hitters. They're really good hitters. It's just they have this arsenal and this such a good offensive lineup that it's going to be hard to break into that.
OU has been healthy as well in the lineup as compared to in the circle. They've had a couple of minor injuries to deal with, notably Sam Landry, who missed that first SEC series. Bland waves and misses, strike 3.